The stories we see in anime never fail to please us. We experience love, adventure, friendship, and happiness from them. Sometimes, on the contrary, we also feel infuriating emotions of horror, rage, sadness, and in the extreme, we even get depression. No matter the feeling positive or negative, but both equally seems to fascinate us. And why won't it? As the tales this beautiful artwork delivers us are so unique and fulfilling that we can't ignore it without appreciating its beauty. For years, anime had provided us with so many astonishing stories, so maybe I thought this is the time someone tells us about the story of anime itself. The origin story of anime is a masterpiece tale in itself, and this is not an exaggeration. So questions like how, why, and when this artwork was created shall be answered today. Surprisingly, the journey of animation did not begin from Japan or America, but from the country of France. In 1908, Émile Cohl created Phantasmagorie, the first animated film using hand-drawn animation, and film historians consider it to be the first animated cartoon. To make this film, Cohl placed each drawing on an illuminated glass plate, then traced the next drawing with variations on top until he had around 700 drawings. This was a short film, which introduced the world to the idea of animation. It was spectacular to see drawings to move, as nothing like this was seen during that time. This sparked a sense of curiosity for animation among artists, and soon many of them followed the footsteps of Émile Cohl. 1914, Winsor McCay created Gertie the Dinosaur, the animated short film that took the next step in paving the road to a more fluid sense of movement. This technique gave Gertie the presence and personality of an individual with a life of her own. Artists were enthusiastic in experimenting with this newly found art form and developed it as much as they could. But among all the artists, one artist stood out above all. This individual was destined to carry animation to its full potential. In 1923, Walt Disney came to Los Angeles, where his brother Roy was recuperating from tuberculosis. While there, he eventually sold Alice's Wonderland, a short film produced by Laugh-O-Gram, and secured a deal to make 6 more. Disney began work on his most renowned invention after the success of the Alice comedies, and a series centered on a character dubbed Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. The world first met Mickey Mouse with the premiere of Steamboat Willie in 1928. The character would go on to become one of, if not the, most well-known cartoon characters in history. Disney was making characters that are still beloved and enjoyed today, but he was still lacking a story that could enchant the audience, as the animation of that time focused only on comedy. But this has to change in order to further grow animation. To complement the Mickey series, Walt Disney created the Silly Symphonies. It featured distinct casts of characters in each picture, allowing animators to explore with plots that focused on atmosphere, emotion, and musical themes rather than the quips and rapid comedy of the Mickey cartoons. The Silly Symphonies eventually became a training ground for all Disney artists as they prepared for the arrival of animated feature films. Maybe Walt Disney saw the impact that could be made in storytelling through animation, or maybe he just wanted to take a break from short films and focus on something bigger, whatever the reason was. But one night in 1934, Walt told his animators that they were going to make an animated feature film, and then he told them the story of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. The group had some naysayers, but Walt's passion quickly won them over, and work began in earnest. After 3 years of development, the innovative picture eventually aired on December 21, 1937, and was an instant hit. Snow White immediately became the highest-grossing film of all time. This was the key milestone for the future of animation, as Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs was the first film that revealed the true capability of animation. It narrated us a wonderful story with characters full of life. The visuals were stunning, and the emotions that it conveyed was not possible to recreate with any live action. Disney mastered the art of animation to give the illusion of life in lifeless drawings. He made his audience to connect and sympathize with characters that doesn't even exist. In succeeding to do so, he inspired even more artists to do the same. Similar to West, Japan itself was quick to adopt animation. In 1917, a short animation was created by Junichi Kuchi named The Dull Sword. It is a short comedic story about a dim-witted self-appointed samurai and his worn-down sword, which turns completely useless as he tries to fight even the weakest opponents. The samurai, trying to figure out why his old sword cannot cut anyone he strikes, tries desperately to attack random townspeople who defend themselves and knock him out. It was not necessarily the first, but it marked the beginning of animation in Japan, which later also became an integral part of their culture. Many other short animated films were also launched in Japan, including titles like Sarukani Gassen, Kemurigusa Monogatari, and Sengatsubo. Similar to West's initial approach, these feature films focused mainly on comedy with the lack of stunning visuals and stories. As its art form was still in development, Japan faced the repercussions of the war, which left it into turmoil both economically and morally. It was during this time that a man named Okawa Hiroshi, who once was astonished after watching The Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, began his journey. He was dazzled by the gorgeous colors of the film. It inspired him in such a level that he built his own animation company named Toei Animation. In the year of 1957, his ambition was to become the Disney of the East. Toei Animation chose the tale of the White Serpent as their first film. They sent a research team to the United States and invited several experts to travel to Japan as mentors. As a result, they were able to master the Disney system of assembly line production. They hired a team of new employees who honed their skills while they produced the film under the supervision of veteran animators like Mori Yasuji and Daikuhara Akira. Although not a hit like Snow White, but it still acted as an inspiration for other artists in Japan. From 1917 to 1963, the number of animated projects releasing in Japan were rapidly increasing, but still the animated projects lacked the visuals and compelling story to compete with its Western counterpart. But it was about to change with release of Astro Boy. It was a story about a robot created by a brilliant scientist as a substitute for his son who was killed in a traffic accident. The scientist gives Astro Boy his superpowers: eyes like searchlights, ears that hear for miles, fingers enhanced with lasers, limbs that fire rockets, and the ability to fly. It was a unique concept for that period, as animation till now were only exploring the genres of romance, comedy, and fantasy. But Astro Boy introduced the genres of superhero and science fiction into animation. It was never done by Disney or any other animation company till now. It was a completely unique show during that time, and maybe because of this reason, it was a widely successful show not only in Japan but also in other Western nations. After that, Japan began differentiating itself from its Western counterparts. While visuals and narration of Western animations were still focused on comedy, fairy tales, and fantasies, the East's approach to its animation was starting to shift, as it now also targeted genres like action, mecha, suspense thriller, science fiction, and even sports. Production like Golden Bat and Tiger Mask were released during this period. These animations deviated from other generic cartoons and explored a sense of supernatural mixed with action which was missing in the West. Shows like The Mazinger Z and Mobile Gundam Suit emerged, which introduced the mechanoid elements to its animation. Apart from Gundam, which only gained its popularity in 2000s, no animated project of Japan was able to gain much popularity outside Japan. Japan's future for animation seemed uncertain during that period. Toei Animation was founded in the hopes of becoming the Disney of East. They aimed to achieve the same feat as Walt Disney, the man who mesmerized the world through his animated movies. Now it was Toei Studios' turn to do the same. Toei Animation might have been quick to notice the genius in Akira Toriyama's work, as they wasted no time in acquiring the animation rights for his manga. So in 1986, the world witnessed the release of Dragon Ball. It was the greatest gift of Japan to the world, as it was able to influence an entire generation of children during that time. The new compelling story and completely unique art style was probably the reason why words like anime and shonen began to be used to refer to these kind of animation and genres. Animation from that time mostly had small kids as their target audience, but with the introduction of a linear storytelling, with jaw-dropping martial arts fights, the mystical element of Dragon Balls, and characters with distinct personalities, Dragon Ball spiked a curiosity for animation even among teenagers. Dragon Ball was able to create a solid audience that not only supported Dragon Ball, but also were enthusiastic to see more of these kind of animation. These proved beneficial for Japan's other animation projects as well. The audience were now supporting Japan's work worldwide. Shows like Sailor Moon, Cowboy Bebop, and Neon Genesis Evangelion were becoming a wide success in USA. While on the other hand, an entire generation of Asia were enjoying shows like Shin-Chan, Doraemon, Perman, and many more. Hayao Miyazaki and Isao Takahata created Studio Ghibli in 1985. The studio's debut feature, Laputa, Castle in the Sky, was released in 1986 and went on to become Japan's highest-grossing animation picture that year. It had several typical Miyazaki tropes, such as his fascination with flying mechanics and a fondness for magical realism. His father was an aviation engineer who led the family business, Miyazaki Airlines. This influence pervades most of the younger Miyazaki's work, and Laputa is one of the clearest instances. Much of the action in the film takes place in the air, with airships and flying gadgets playing an important role. In 1988, Studio Ghibli followed up Laputa, Castle in the Sky, by releasing two films simultaneously, the Takahata-directed Grave of the Fireflies and Miyazaki's My Neighbor Totoro. Ghibli was doing quite well at Japan's box office at the time, but their popularity remained largely confined to Japan. Princess Mononoke changed that. Set in the late Muromachi period, the film once again revisited Miyazaki's recurrent theme of the environment. It examined the tension that is experienced between humanity's need for growth and nature's need for preservation, as well as exploring other themes such as disability and sexuality. Tackling these large themes in films that are also accessible by children is a hallmark of Studio Ghibli and something that sets the animation house apart from much of the industry. Princess Mononoke was not only a commercial success, but a huge critical one too. The film won the Japan Academy Prize for Picture of the Year, becoming the first ever animated film to receive this award. In 1999, Princess Mononoke was released in the US with distribution by Miramax. It performed poorly at the box office, but went on to sell well on DVD and video. Studio Ghibli had taken its first big step onto the world stage. Spirited Away, Miyazaki's most renowned movie, was released on July 20, 2001. It was conceived by Miyazaki as a film intended at 10-year-old girls, appealing to what they held dear in their hearts, rather of more superficial matters like romance and who they had a crush on. Instead, Miyazaki places a strong female character at the center of the acclaimed film, hoping to establish a role model for young females. The picture was created using computer animation once again, but not in a way that overwhelmed the plot and production. It went on to become the highest-grossing Japanese picture of all time, a position it kept for the following 19 years. Spirited Away, like Princess Mononoke, won the Japan Academy Prize for Picture of the Year. But perhaps more impressive is the international acclaim it received. It won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, making it the only non-English language and hand-drawn anime film to do so, cementing its place in film history. Japan was making breakthrough after breakthroughs, and it was only the beginning of its success. Japan gifted the world with another 3 back-to-back hits. These 3 anime not only earned huge profits, but were also able to make its name in the pop culture. They made such a huge difference that they were termed as the Big Three. One Piece, Bleach, and Naruto were released in the early 2000s. The impact they were able to make in the world is still unmatched today. These series played a significant role in the growth of the anime industry by contributing to its popularity on a global scale. They attracted a massive international fan base, helping to establish anime as a mainstream entertainment medium. The success of the Big Three also influenced the production and marketing strategies of other anime series, contributing to the industry's overall expansion and diversification. Anime merchandise, manga, and anime cosplay became norms of the society. The hype for anime was increasing rapidly. More and more people were becoming obsessed with anime. The Big Three most definitely sealed the victory of anime, and because of them, anime industry had a solid footing. The dream of becoming the Disney of East was not a dream anymore, as anime was now becoming a billion-dollar industry. Apart from its financial success, anime was also playing a major role in making animation a medium for all ages, as the myth of animation is for kids was still prevailing at that time. In the 4th of October 2006, Death Note was released. Death Note attracted mature audiences in anime through its complex and intellectual narrative, exploring themes of morality, power, and the consequences of one's actions. The series delves into psychological and ethical dilemmas, making it more thought-provoking and appealing to older viewers. The strategic cat-and-mouse game between the main characters, Light Yagami and L, added a layer of suspense and intrigue, further captivating mature audiences. Additionally, Death Note's darker tone and mature themes set it apart from more typical shonen anime, appealing to those seeking a more sophisticated and nuanced storytelling experience. Anime was now debunking the myth of animation is for kids more seriously, as its stories and art style were becoming more complex. It was not an art form that was now targeting kids only, but in fact was delivering masterpieces that could be only comprehended by sophisticated minds. Series like 7 Deadly Sins, Hunter x Hunter, Attack on Titan, One Punch Man, Demon Slayer, Jujutsu, and more were becoming hits after hit. And in the movie industry, titles like Perfect Blue, I Want to Eat Your Pancreas, Silent Voice were making their name as classic. Although one movie had made major difference among all the others, Your Name is one of the most iconic and influential anime movies of the past decade. The Makoto Shinkai directed movie tells the story of how a teenage boy and girl set out to find each other after they discover that they have strangely and magically swapped bodies after a strange event. The movie had a huge impact across the globe, with the steps featured in the movie's poster attracting a wide variety of tourists from across Japan and the world, many trying to get their photo taken in a similar manner to the 2 main characters. Anime now has a wide variety of awesome series and some iconic movies as well. Anime started a century ago with little presence. It took its inspiration from the West and wasted no time in diversifying itself as soon as it got some recognition. Now anime has a fan base of millions, with fans scattered all around the globe. It made animation enjoyable not only to kids, but also to older age groups. Anime has gifted us countless enchanting stories, but the tale of its own creation is equally memorable. A vibrant journey where creativity blossomed, bridging cultures and captivating hearts with the magic of animation.